Here we go, back at it again, episode number 79, uploaded and coming at you. And well, that was a very interesting weekend, right? Oh, man. So we finally come to the back end of our Triple Crown series as we get set for what's coming your way. But this weekend was really, really interesting and very telling, and I think we learned a lot about a lot of the horses. And so let's kind of recap and then take it from there. So we recap and take a look at what happened. Journalism, another gutsy win. This time in the Preakness Stakes. We all know the situation. Horse was trapped on the inside. Flavian Pratt with goal oriented is like, nah, bro, you can't come out here. I'm here. So Umberto Rispoli has to make his own way. Or journalism made his own way. Whatever the case, this horse is not to be messed with. You know, I initially doubted everything about him because the way he was performing on the West Coast, he was doing it in these 5-horse fields. I was like, man, he had one 10-horse field, but the other night he had 5-horse fields. I'm like, I don't know about this horse. And I really wasn't sure about the rider. We'll get to that in a second. But after what we've seen now, there's no doubt journalism is awesome. And I think sovereignty is actually better than journalism. So that's going to be crazy as we get deeper into the summer and see those two hook up again. But the thing about that particular performance, really, really gutsy performance. And so now we go from after that, what have we learned, right? And we learned some very definitive things about certain horses. Number one, journalism is serious. Doesn't matter what kind of a field he's in, doesn't matter the track conditions, that horse comes to run. Excellent job by the connections. Michael McCarthy, great job training, but also Eclipse just kind of taking their time and deciding, hey, we're going to wait and make sure the horse is ready to go. And the horse was ready to go. Like, he was ready to go. So he's going to be a force for the rest of the year. Hopefully, this runner stays with us and we get a chance to see him in the Breeders' Cup Classic. And these 3-year-olds, like every year, we kind of have a nice little rivalry with some of the 3-year-olds. Some years develop and they're more exciting than others. But this is developing into what could be a really, really interesting rivalry with these horses moving forward. Another situation that we're watching is our jockeys, right? So this is now the third consecutive questionable ride from Umberto Rispoli. What do we do with that, right? So the first time we questioned him was in the Santa Anita Derby. It's a field of 5, bro. How are you getting trapped up against the rail? Which is what all players like. What are you doing? But he made his way out of there. And when he got clear, he kicked in. Like, he's got a really nice kick, and it's quick. He doesn't have to build it up. He just push button, go. Kind of like California Chrome, but not as exciting. Like, California Chrome's turn of foot was really exciting. Anyway, so we know now that was the one ride in the Santa Anita Derby. So we let that ride, right? Then we get him into a field with 19 horses, total of 19 horses, 18 other horses in the Kentucky Derby on the sloppy track. He gets trapped up against the rail, and he's stuck. And then he has to work his way out. So a lot of folks are thinking, well, okay, that happened in the Santa Anita Derby, fine. Okay, that happened in the Kentucky Derby, now you learned your lesson. And then he goes and does it again. So a lot of folks were saying that journalism wasn't really responding early on, right? So Umberto Rispoli decides to take him to the inside to get him into the race, get him going. But either he didn't think 2 steps ahead, or he knew it wasn't going to matter, if that makes sense. The one individual who knows how much horse they have is obviously the jockey, right? So maybe he felt like, hey, I got to get him involved, and in order to get him involved, I got to get him up around horses. Okay, that makes sense. If that's the kind of horse he is, or he needs to be like neck and neck and horses around him to kind of get motivated, that's understandable. But then you but you could have swung out and still passed those horses. So to bully your way through that hole was poor judgment. Now, we as players have this tough situation because we want the rider that we put our money on to do whatever they have to do to win the race. Deep in our hearts, that's what we want. We don't want anyone to be hurt, but we know the rules of the game, right? If you're penalized after the fact, it has nothing to do with the order of finish, and we still win our money. So you're always in a tough spot, right? You just want your horse to win, and then hopefully the stewards don't mess anything up. But that's 3 times he's put journalism in a really tough spot. So let's hope he doesn't do that again, right? Let's hope he's learned his lesson and just try and stay clear. Get up in there. Don't get caught up in that jackpot, that horseshoe, we call it, right? It's called a horseshoe, like this shape. And so if this is where the runners are, and then you run up in the middle of that horseshoe, you're trapped here, here, and here. Then you got to back out and go around. That's crazy talk. But that's not for us to worry about yet. Jockey's got to figure that out. Umberto Rispoli is an awesome rider, right? They take chances. It's just been a little questionable. We'll see if he learns from that and adjusts his tactic next time out. All right, what else did we learn? Well, we learned that no matter how much social media support you have and how much your trainer is saying that you're good, sometimes you're just not good enough. Sandman, he's just not a serious horse right now. And it's the offspring of Tapit. It takes some time to mature, so maybe he'll be ready to go by Belmont. Maybe late summer. You know, he's not going to go in the Belmont, sorry. He's skipping the Belmont, as he should. But he might be ready for the Jim Dandy, maybe. I don't know what to do with Sandman. I'm not the trainer. But I know one thing's for sure. I've learned that sometimes when they win their Triple Crown or Kentucky Derby prep, that's it for them. So we got money on the Arkansas Derby, and we celebrate that. Woohoo! But I don't think this horse, he can win another race, but I don't know how, right? I don't know how Sandman ever wins another race. And look, there are just some horses, I always handicap the races completely separate. The Kentucky Derby is completely separate from everything else. So I've always felt like there are certain horses throughout the years that can win the Derby and nothing else. Like I really felt like Giacomo could win the Derby and nothing else. I remember being so frustrated because he won the Derby, and so then I had to do all these media requests, which I was fine with. And I remember talking to USA Today, and they were like, well, you got to be picking Giacomo in the Preakness. I'm like, no, I'm not. He can't win that race. Like, even I knew that. I was like, he can't win that race. I don't want to bet him. Well, you have to. What do you mean I have to? Anyway, so there are certain horses that just like, I don't expect Final Gambit. Maybe he comes back on the dirt in the Belmont. If the Belmont were 1.5 miles, I would really expect Final Gambit to be there. But it's not. But I wouldn't be surprised, right? But I expected him to do what he did in the Derby. It just wasn't good enough. But I don't expect him really to be involved in other races. That's just kind of how I see certain horses. Sandman was the kind of horse that he could have won the Derby, I guess, if he didn't really hate the kickback in his face. But now you think about it, he just doesn't have enough turn of foot. He just doesn't have enough giddy up and go. Johnny V said that he thought he was going to win the race when they turned for home. I felt like there was no point he was going to win that race. And I had money on Sandman. And I was like, there's no way he's going to win this race. He just never moved like a winner. And then Johnny said he lost focus in the stretch. Like, yeah, that's what he does all the time. Even when he's winning, he's losing focus. So that horse, done. Right? He's done. He's not a serious horse. So now the question is, what is next? Well, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that the Belmont, woo! The Belmont could be one for the ages, man. This is going to be really, really cool because if everything goes according to plan, right, you're going to have a rematch of the horses that ran exceptionally well in the Kentucky Derby, one of them winning it, and then another horse that came back to run even better in the Preakness. So it's going to be interesting to see who all shows up, right? Here's how it looks thus far. The preliminaries. We know Sovereignty's going. We know Baeza's going, right? We know Hill Road is committed. Journalism is still thinking about it. Gosker, they're thinking about it. McAfee. So if you look at this list of horses, it's like, first off, where's the speed? I'm not convinced that Rodriguez is going to be healthy in 3 weeks. Not convinced. So now we're going to wait. Because if you're a trainer looking at these horses and you've got a 3-year-old with some speed, maybe from, maybe Bob tries to wheel back, I don't know, Citizen Bull, because Rodriguez won't be ready. So this is going to be very interesting. And just looking at this field right here, you know who I would pick in this field right now? because I think he might have the ability to be closer to the pace and get first crack on these runners. Journalism does not have to be that far off the pace. I don't know why Umberto Rispoli keeps doing that. This horse is very rateable. He could be in a nice stalking spot, so I think he'll have to adapt that particular strategy if this is what the field looks like on June the 7th. That could be interesting. Yeah, so we still got some time to figure that whole thing out, right? So as we kind of regroup from the weekend, we didn't make as much as we wanted to, so we're going to keep it moving. And we saw some things we really liked Monday, today. The Monday card at Horseshoe, Indianapolis is really, really nice. They're on the turf course. The turf course has got a little give, so it's listed as good. And we think we can make some money with the late double, only using a couple of horses. That's how we do it. So let's go take a look. All right, so here's what we want to do. Races 7 and 8 is where the double is, right? It's not the end of the card. Races 7 and 8 are just the last two turf races on the card. Race number 7, there's a horse named Verbal. They're going to go 1 mile on the turf. So the reason why I bring up all of these runnings for Verbal is the mile distance on the turf for him has been really the thing. He's 2 for 5 going a mile on the turf, including graded stakes victories back when he was a youngin'. You can go back there and see the Cecil B. DeMille, that grade 3 event there, right? Plus the maiden breaking score over the turf as well. So we say, okay, now you're getting back. So you're going to be turning back in distance, staying on the turf course. I love the way Ben Curtis rides. And I think this jockey's going to put Verbal in a good spot. And I think we're off the layoff. You know, we've got our fitness and everything. I think it's going to be a great spot for the horse. I love the value. 5-1, 6-1 is what we'll get. I'll take that. Just using that horse in the first leg of our double. So that's the 12 in race number 7. Then in race number 8, we're only going to use 2 horses. We're going to use Emoji, who was third now of the career. The first 2 starts on the turf course sprinting, not too shabby. I think going to be right in that same spot. Again, our man Luan Machado, who was riding Final Gambit for us in the Kentucky Derby, is in the irons. And then you have to go with our money man, Fernando de la Cruz. He's going to be riding for Brad Cox. Together they do a lot of good things. Got a first-time starter here with a good series of drills for a trainer who wins first time out. Nice turf pedigree, gets a 356 Tomlinson for the grass. And there aren't really any world beaters. There's one other horse. There's a speed horse to the outside, the 11, that's got some giddy up and go. But other than that, that's it. So I'm just going to keep it simple. It's going to cost you $10, a $5 double. 12 with 8 and 9. That's in race 7. 7 and 8, right? Race 7, we go with the 12. Race 8, we go with the 8 and 9. $10. Bada boom, bada bing. You're done, you're done. You made your money, you move on. Right? Keep it simple. Hey, if our value is 9-2 or higher on Verbal in race 7, obviously, we go with a win wager as well, because we're not spending that much on the double. But that's for you to decide. And I'll make my own decision as well. That's how we do it on this Monday for episode 79 here on Horse Race Bets. I'm Ken Rudulph. In the meantime, in between time, and until next time, we will see you then as we continue getting closer to the big stakes races coming up this weekend and building for the next 3 weeks to figure out what in the heck to do with the Belmont Stakes at 1.25 miles over the track there at Saratoga. All right? Until then, good luck and enjoy whatever you're into.